perfectly worked. And at 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon, we finally finished. Randy was under the most incredible pressure to produce those shots. This incredible wizard in his little dark room in Los Angeles, not much bigger than this studio, with his ladders and his models before him, had to produce most of the shots over a long weekend. It was 80 hours non-stop. So that was quite a feat, and we got it done. And when we saw that shot of the ghoul falling over and splitting into a dozen minions, it took our breath away. It was something else. We'd never seen anything like that before. So it was well worth it in many, many shots like that. We made that film great. Besides the usual constraints of budget and time, you're always up against the time. There's never enough time and never enough money. And never enough money, beside that point, we had a few shots Tibor was not able to shoot during production. And there was this, we felt that just before the picture was locked, that in the scene where Glenn has a little box, he's fumbling with it, preparing to shoot the rocket into the demon Lord King's heart, Tibor needed a close-up of him actually making the firing. Well, we didn't have Glenn. We had the box, we had a little studio, and so before I ran out and hired a 10-year-old boy to stand in, Tibor was very astute. He said, no, Gordon, we don't have to do that. He says, we'll use your thumb. I said, what? I'm a 35-year-old man, it's a 10-year-old character. You use my thumb? He said, yeah, we're going to use your thumb. So we shot that close-up with this thumb here. Now, this thumb is still the thumb of a 10-year-old boy because it worked perfectly in the film. My hands are quite small, so it worked. Tibor saw that. So that's my one claim to fame, is the thumb. Firing the rocket.
You can do so much with film now that you couldn't do then, and the things that they were able to do, that crew of people, that team, really quite astonishing. The feeling of that film for kids is terrific. Like, it is a truly scary movie.
It's honest about being a kid. It's honest about what happens if this kind of thing was to take over your house. I mean, the house is totally destroyed at the end. It didn't all come back to magical normal. People can associate with a sense of loss in it. They can associate with, how if you just tell people that, it seems kind of cheesy, but love's going to save the day. But it does that in such a way that you can get behind it.
You'll notice. Give me a break.
There's a freshness to it, there's an innocence to it, there's a cleanness to it, there's an exotic darkness to it. It's not too much, but it's fantastic. It's a beautiful little gem, is what it is, of its kind, of its time too. So it appeals not just to kids, and that's the beauty of it too.
You got demons.
There's just not another movie like it. It's really interesting to be part of something that became a cult film. You know, at the time, for me, I was just trying to break into the industry, make a bit of money, and it keeps popping back up.
The wonderful thing is that there's probably 10 people on that crew, although I know them all, that are my very close friends, and I still see makeup and hair all the time. I still see the third AD every week. It was a really interesting thing in that way. People got together and people stayed friends for a lot of years. But I think the experience level, even of the crew at that time when we were just learning, was amazing.
Whenever I think about that movie, I do think about my own learning and my own experience and how we don't make movies like that anymore.
Films embody the vision of the spirit of their makers, and there was a real warm human and adventure spirit with Tibor. So it meant quite a lot to me.
I think often about Tibor, and I think if he was here and you know, we were having a frank conversation, he'd say the same thing, that the experience was a learning experience and a growing experience for him. I think it was remarkable that he got it greenlit. I think it was remarkable that he got it made. But I think, like me, I think he came to work every day and looked around and went, holy crap, wow, I can't believe we're doing this, and I can't believe they're letting me.
What I learned most from the movie, working on the gate, was that I didn't want to be an AD anymore. I didn't want to get screamed at from producers. I didn't want to wrangle children, but I had a great time working with the crew. It was an amazing crew, great director, fun cast, and, you know, got to see brand new things. That we used to say, you know, you learn something new every day, and we learned a lot on that movie. The movie has this crazy cult following, and I didn't really know about this just until a few years ago. And of course, hearing, you know, from you and wanting to be interviewed about it, that it surprised me that it was that big of a cult classic. I had no idea when I did it. It's a surprise to me.
I was down in Orlando like 5 years after it was made, staying at the Holiday Inn with a great big atrium, and we have a big buffet breakfast. And at the buffet breakfast at 8:30 in the morning, they have the television screens, and there was the gate playing. I mean, you tell me, I have no idea, but people loved it.
Glenn! I was thinking earlier that it's a little bit like my brother had a rock band back in the 60s, and they had some success and they were really, really good. Never really quite took that leap into super fame. But people are buying their DVDs or CDs now. They just keep saying, no, we want. So it's just one of those things, you never know what sort of life a film or a project will have.
We accidentally summoned demons who used to rule the universe to come and take over the world.
For some people, it's like an old friend, and for some people, it's like this new experience of something that's very old. I mean, the movie's 30 years old, but the techniques used are 100 years old, you know? So it just kind of brings everything together in what ends up being a satisfying way. But there were a lot of guys. I think there were 10, 12 minions. But whenever this comes up, people seem to call me. I feel like, you know, the last surviving Munchkin. You know, because it's like, where is everybody else? There's got to be some of them still around somewhere. Come on.
The lab had to send a negative to the negative cutters. So I was at the loading dock when they was coming in from the lab, and this old rickety van pulled up, and they opened up the back of it, and there was the gate, original negative, all 50 cans of it, thrown into the back of this van, not taped up, not secured, just single cans. And I said, oh my goodness, what would have happened if there had been an accident? They had been all over the road. Also, the van wasn't clean. What if someone had stolen some of it? There would have been no gate.
One of the costumes I made for Lewis' trip was a vest, a jean vest. And because it was low budget, I went and found one of my old jean jackets and tore off the sleeves and worked on it. And I'm going to stand up and you're going to see it.
the sets were great fun to work in because they were huge. You'd have these big caverns. It was like being on Journey to the Center of the Earth. Huge things, you know. Of course, since they were forced perspective, you know, when you saw them on screen, they were a little hole in the ground, and it looked like nothing. But the minions looked kind of cool.
Hi.
I like to make horror films that are meant for kids. I saw most of the ones that I love and have never forgotten before I was 10 years old. I think there's a strange attitude on the part of grown people. They forget what they were like when they were 10. And that's a wonderful time of life. There's a romance to a horror film. I love those the best.
Visual effects were now becoming something that was sort of boutique, you know, and the visual effects supervisor was born, and somebody who just sort of coordinates things, but often doesn't have a big creative say in how to do them. And I, of course, having been falsely impressed that I could be the next Ray Harryhouse, and not knowing that there's only one Ray Harryhouse, and that job was taken already. But I figured, well, I'm going to do it all myself. I'm going to sculpt these things and animate them and design the scenes and what have you. And so I got myself listed as designer and supervisor rather than just supervisor, so people would think I'd actually done the work, you know. I wanted to do a lot of it forced perspective, a la Darby O'Gill, because we had these little tiny creatures, and I figured, you know, let's do it in with guys in suits, but